Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll review the 10 matches from Game Week 4 and see which players caught the eye and have been added to the watch list. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks. First up was Arsenal 3, Forest 0. Comfortable home win for Arsenal. They created most of their chances from set pieces and direct balls, which I thought was quite interesting. Normally they like to play those little threaded passes, and it was a lot less of that. They sort of try to play quite direct. Forest weren't much of a threat, but difficult to judge them. Obviously, Postecoglou just coming in with a few days to prepare. I think the Arsenal defence is looking as good as ever. They've only conceded 1 in the first 4 games. Gabriel got his first DEFCON points of the season, but I'd still probably be a bit cautious with rotation. Probably choose Raya as a first pick at the moment. Just have to see sort of how Champions League goes, and obviously Saliba's been injured. Gabriel had a bad injury last year, so I think they've bolstered the squad and they're going to rotate a bit. So I think we're going to have to see which games you might miss a few games if you pick one of those. So I'd go Raya at the moment just for the safety. In attack, Gyökeres probably the number 1 pick now. Nice to see a tap in from a number 9. And he also had a second, hit the frame of the goal. He's on penalties as well. So I think they've got 2 tricky games coming up, City and Newcastle, but then they've got a good run for the rest of the year. So I think he's going to be a popular pick to come in, for a long run for most teams. From a Forest point of view, obviously it's a bit early to judge anything from them. Obviously just with Postecoglou and having a few days. So I think we'll have to wait and see for a few weeks. I think it's going to be very different to Nuno. Obviously Postecoglou likes to play a much more attacking brand of football, so should be some nice attacking options emerge. They've got quite a big squad, but I'd probably just wait and watch with them for a few weeks. If you got Chris Wood, obviously he's a good hold for the next couple of weeks, but difficult to know if he's going to hold his place for the long term. And Bournemouth 2, Brighton 1. A fairly close game without too many chances. It was a great goal from Scott and the penalty deciding it for Bournemouth. Semenyo took the penalty ahead of Evan Nilsson, so I think that makes him even more appealing. And the way he's playing at the moment, it's potentially now I'd say could be justifying that price tag because he keeps returning. And it's probably going to be a few more weeks before we see Kluivert sort of starting regularly, depending how he gets back to full fitness after his injury. So could be Semenyo on penalties for a few weeks to come, and I think it's he's starting to look like he could be the real deal there. Senesi hit the DEFCONs for the 4th game in a row, so he's probably cemented himself as the best cheap defender in the game. He's 4.6 million now. He has gone up, and probably will go up again soon because if you're hitting sort of 3-4 points as a bottom level for each game, then that's really nice value. Matoma got his first goal of the season. It was a lovely Minter cross. He has been threatening in every game I've seen so far. I think I've caught all the Brighton games actually. So, he always seems to get one big chance every match. But I'm still not confident who to pick out of those Brighton attackers. Matoma and Minter seem to be getting the minutes now, so probably choose one of those two. But I'd be lying if I said I'd want any of them in my team at the moment because I think there's just too many uncertainties there. And Palace 0, Sunderland 0. It was a dominant display from Palace. They just couldn't find that goal. Roofs in goal for Sunderland had an excellent game. And they had no shots on target for the whole game. So, it was quite one-sided, really. Mateta had a couple of chances, well saved. So he was, quite unlucky not to pick up something. Definitely the main man for Palace, but I think Pino was very lively as well on his first start. 2 great chances in the game. One was well saved, but the other he just sort of dragged wide. And but he was getting himself in the positions. He's priced as a 6 million midfielder. So I think one to keep an eye on. Palace don't have the best fixtures coming up, so I think they've got quite a difficult run. So he's probably one just to keep an eye on and just see if he continues to start, especially when Sarr comes back. Is he going to drop out, or is Pino going to start most of the games, it's difficult to know. Kamada is a favourite of Glasner's as well, so yeah, there's a few options there. So yeah, just see how that plays out. And from the Palace defence, I'd still go Lacroix at the moment over Guehi. Defcon potential is there, especially in the tougher fixtures. And I think probably you're going to get more points over a longer period with the Defcons than you will the attack and returns from Munoz. But, in any given game, Munoz could certainly outscore Lacroix quite easily. From Sunderland, I've probably only been looking at their 4 million defenders. Obviously, Alderete, I've mentioned a few times, but also Mukiele now. He's had back-to-back Defcons in his 2 starts. So as a pairing, I think, they're pretty decent, and, they seem to be getting the Defcons, when they're playing together. So, yeah, one of those 2, could be quite handy on a wild card if anyone's, thinking to do that in the next few weeks. And Everton 0, Villa 0. So Everton had all the chances in this game. Villa barely threatened at all, really. And they only took a point basically because of Martinez, making some great saves. Really disappointing again from Villa. Grealish sort of created the bulk of the chances of Everton. One decent effort on goal, but it looks, that he's more likely to be an assister rather than a goal scorer. So, yeah, we'll have to see if he's going to reach, he's going to be worth that price of 6.5. I think he is potentially more now. Is he 6.67? Similar price to Ndai or just a bit more. He was quieter in the game, but just something to note, he did hit the Defcons. So, if he can add that as an extra source of points along with the penalties and, the goal scoring form that he's been in, that could just, make him the most popular of the Everton assets. And from a defensive point of view, Tarkowski hit the Defcons for the 4th game in a row. He has 23 points for the season, which is 1 point short of hitting basically 4 clean sheets without the Defcon points. So, based on the old scoring system of 6 for a clean sheet, that would be, he's only 1 point short of that. So 4 clean sheets in 4 games, everyone would have been on, Tarkowski if, Everton were doing that. So, yeah, to hit that many points in 4 games, yeah, it just really illustrates how important the Defcons are going to be. Having defenders consistently getting the Defcons, I think, it's going to be really important this season. It's hard to recommend any Villa assets until we see some improvement. I think the only thing I can say really is if you've got Watkins, I think you've got to hold for one more game, Sunderland away, and then, if he gets nothing from that, it has to be a sell because, yeah, that would be enough chances at this point. And Fulham 1, Leeds 0. Another uneventful game, not many chances for either side. It was a really unlucky own goal for Leeds to lose the game. There's not really much more to report from that, really. I think Anderson hit the Defcons for the 3rd game in a row. Picked up a couple of bonus as well. Another nice, cheap defender, picking up good points. He should keep getting the Defcons in the tougher games for Fulham. So I think, he's got a nice floor of sort of 3-4 points a game at 4.5 million. Yeah, should prove to be pretty good value. Muniz has now started the last 3 for Fulham, so it looks like he's the first choice striker. I did say, Fulham don't have the best fixtures coming up in the near future, but I think at 5.5 could be a solution if you're looking for a budget option or, you're looking for a striker, to put on the bench. Might be a nice one to, just take a chance on, especially at that price. And then Kevin looked very lively when he came on. Very tricky winger, a little bit of speed. And a nice shot he cut in from the left-hand side, cutting shot on his right foot. A lot of Brazilians that I follow, they rate him really highly. So I think, he's going to be an exciting one to keep an eye on. Then from Leeds, I'd probably only be looking at their cheap defenders. Rodon hit the Defcon again this week. It's just take your pick between him and Goodmanson, I think. Newcastle 1, Wolves 0. So Newcastle had a few scares from Wolves in the first few minutes of the game. But they did have the majority of the chances the game went on and probably should have won more comfortably, really. Voltamade made his first start and got his first goal. It was a well-taken header. Looked pretty neat and tidy on the ball. Some nice sort of 1-2s in tight areas around the box. early days, but Newcastle have definitely been needing someone to finish all the chances they've been creating because they've put on a lot of chances in the first few games, but just haven't had someone there to finish. So, he could really benefit from that. But yeah, very early days. I'd still go Pobol Livramento as a defender of choice. I think Newcastle have got a decent squad of defenders, so there's going to be a bit of rotation, especially when the Champions League starts. 3 clean sheets from 4, still the lowest expected goals against in the league. So, yeah, I think I'd want to have one of them in my team at least. Wolves still don't really have any players to recommend at the moment. Just probably Strand Larsen when he's back from injury, but it's a little bit up in the air at the moment as to how long he's going to be out for. And West Ham 0, Spurs 3. Really comfortable for Spurs in the end. West Ham had one good chance in the first half, but otherwise this game, didn't really start until the second half, and it was over within 10 minutes. The goals and the red cards sort of all came fairly quickly. If I'm looking at the Spurs defence, I think Romero is probably the pick. Obviously a little bit more expensive than Van der Ven, but he's such a threat at set pieces. His goal was, I think, harshly disallowed really in this one. He's good for DEFCONs when he's up against better opponents. And he had a really nice assist in this game as well. So, yeah, I think with the 3 bonus as well, it's just edging towards Romero, but I don't think Van der Ven's a bad option either if you're trying to save a little bit of money. Either way, Frank's definitely improved the Spurs defence. I think Xavi Simons had a good debut as well from an attacking point of view. He's got played from the left and drifted inside, took a few of the set pieces. He's going to be one to monitor, but yeah, pretty promising debut there, I think. Then for West Ham, I think Paqueta's probably the only player I'd be looking at for now. He had a really good chance in the first half that he just dragged wide, but he keeps getting himself in the box. And yeah, I think there should be a steady stream of returns from him. I think if you like him as a long-term pick. And Brentford 2, Chelsea 2. Fair result on the balance of play. Chelsea didn't create too many chances. Brentford just sort of took their opportunities when they came. It was a sort of typical Brentford home performance from the past few seasons. Nothing really changed there, as far as I can see from when Frank was there. Palmer came on in the second half, got into some good goal-scoring positions. He was unlucky not to get a second. We can see what minutes he gets against Bayern in the Champions League, and then away at United. And I think if he's fit and he's playing, he'll be at the top of most people's watch lists, I'm sure. And then, of course, Pedro, another return this week. He's going to keep playing because they need him there, really. They've got no other options at the moment. And obviously having Palmer back is going to, increase the chances coming his way. So, yeah, I think a lot of people might be looking to double up on Chelsea in a few weeks' time when the fixtures turn. From the defence, I'd still probably go Tosin. I think Cucurella got rested in this one. And yeah, it's just a little bit tricky to call. I think if you go for a 4.5 in Tosin, you've got the DEFCON potential there as well. It's not a disaster if he gets benched, and you've probably got a little extra budget by going for him, so that'll allow you to cover it if he ever does get a random rest in a league game. From Brentford, I still like Vandenberg as a defensive option, but again, we'll have to wait and see because I think they've got quite poor fixtures coming up, and yeah, it might be one for a sort of later wild card or sort of second half of the season maybe. And Burnley 0, Liverpool 1. Very harsh on Burnley to lose to the late penalty. They defended really well, and Liverpool didn't really have any clear-cut chances in the game. They really struggled to break down the low block. And yeah, it's going to be one to monitor, I think, because there's going to be quite a few teams that are going to do this to Liverpool, and yeah, they really did struggle to sort of get those clear-cut chances. Obviously, Salah got the winning goal with the penalty, but he was again fairly anonymous during the game. Really hasn't started the season well, but the thing is, he just keeps picking up the points. So, yeah, I mean, if he does hit any kind of form, then yeah, he's probably going to pick up even more points. So, yeah, he's going to continue to be a reliable captaincy option, I think. And Van Dijk had 2 bonus with a clean sheet in a game, where he wasn't expected to get the DEFCONs. But just looking at, if they can continue to pick up a decent amount of clean sheets, Good chance he's going to start to average 6 points a game. Lots of 8s and 4-pointers, with the DEFCONs. So, yeah, that's a really good rate of points if he can, get anywhere close to that. So, yeah, I think he's going to be heavily owned for a lot of the season. I think for Burnley, I'd only be looking at the 4 million defenders and Dubravka for the bench. And I don't think that's really going to change much going forwards. Then finally, it was City 3, United 0. City won comfortably in the end, but I don't think United were as bad as the media are trying to make out. I think, they do like to pile on to United whenever they lose. But it was defensive mistakes on the 3 goals, and City were just ruthless when they got their opportunities. They could have had a couple more as well, probably. But United did create chances in the game, and they had some good spells of possession. They actually had 54% for the game, which I can't ever remember us having more possession than a Guardiola City team. And they actually made like 100 more passes than City. So I think the patterns are there, and they're certainly improving with the ball in terms of attack. So yeah, I think there's some good signs for United there. But defensively, yeah, there's a lot to still work on, definitely. Haaland's obviously, the main pick for City, and yeah, there's no doubt in him at the moment. Reinders had 2 great chances in the game. He arrived in the box for one, and yeah, he was making runs in behind Haaland. I'd stay patient with him if you've got him, and with Burnley coming up soon, I think he might be one to bring in because he's certainly putting himself in the right places anyway. And then Foden had a good game as well on his return, so he could be a nice differential soon if he can keep himself fit. And then for United, I think Mbeumo is probably the first pick. The chances just seem to keep coming his way, and he was very unlucky in this game not to at least get 1 goal. But it's definitely close between him and Fernandes. So, yeah, you could go either way. But I think Mbeumo is probably most likely to get the points at the moment. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.